Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. A good topic? Let's do it. For those of you who have been to abandoned buildings or haunted houses or anything along those lines, what's the creepiest thing that you've experienced while there? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I was staying with a trapper outside of Alaska. We walked through the woods for a long time to get the former homestead of this trapper's friend. It was 3 stories with a sauna and was built entirely out of 2x4s. The guy who lived there was a Vietnam vet who ran to the north to escape his past, I guess. He took his girlfriend with him. He grew a big marijuana garden until the DEA confiscated it and left a note on his door telling him when it had gone. Anyway, his wife died suddenly from cancer, and this trapper I was staying with found the vet overdosed in his truck a week later. His homestead was still intact, though. Grizzlies had broken down the door and raided everything. There were shotgun shells littering the lawn, old magazines, ripped open boxes of food, and clothes strewn around. The floor was rotting, but I propped a big board up on the side of the house and came in the second story. I climbed to the top story and found that this guy had built a love nest for him and his girl with a skylight over the Alaskan stars. The bed was still unmade, and there were still clothes and underwear everywhere. I sat on this guy's bed. It was surreal, believe me. At the end of my street, there's an old plantation house that is now empty and is occasionally used for conferences and such. The 2 older ladies who live across the street from me have the keys to the house and go in and vacuum and dust every once in a while. One of the ladies recently took us on a tour of the house and told a story that creeped me out. One of the ladies told a story of her granddaughter who used to live across the street with them. She said her granddaughter used to look at the house and see an old woman in white standing looking out a window. One day the 2 went into the plantation house to clean it like always, and the granddaughter saw a painting on the wall of the woman she would often see in the window. Her grandmother, the woman who gave my family and me the tour, said that that woman in the painting had been dead for years. On the cue, the granddaughter turned and ran out of the house and never went back. Unfortunately, I didn't encounter anything during the tour, but the story creeped me out. Seems like the house is across the street from me. Used to do bat survey work. We surveyed an abandoned animal testing lab. Walking around an oversized operating theater was odd. I've been to a few mental hospitals. We found a playroom that was littered with old toys and butterfly wings. The one that scared me the most was a huge site where we spent a day surveying as they told me about the huge black cat that had been on the estate and then left me on my own in the dark with a bat detector, an overactive imagination, and a fear of being attacked by large black cats in the dark. At one point, everything went very quiet as a large black animal made its way through the woodland between me and the main house. On this same site, we were exploring the attics of the main house, and having had to crawl through tiny tunnels to get up there over sets of planks that bridged 4-story drops, we found a room with an armchair and a fireplace in it. They have to have either built it up there or built it up there around it. Back in the mists of times, when I was a little child, there was an old abandoned hospital in my local area. My friends and I used to hang around there because of the concrete playground around the back. One time we managed to gain entry. Inside was about what you would expect for a building long abandoned, peeling paint, and rooms with scattered broken furnishings. That is, until we came upon the basement. In one room at the end of a long corridor, there was a fully kitted out operating theater, clean as a whistle. What didn't even have a layer of dust on any of the furniture, the equipment, or the trays of instruments. Eerie as hell. I still remember the light of our torches glinting off the stainless steel instruments. I used to urban explore early last year. I was the only girl out of a group that ranged from 3 to 4 other people. Our first explore was an old tobacco warehouse that is very historical in my town. It is a huge building, but we explored the smaller warehouse opposite first. A bit of history on the place is that it is haunted and has been reported sight of ghosts at these warehouses. Also, back in the day, the basement was a mortuary for American soldiers who were something like that. So we get outside the building, and the guys start setting up torches and cameras and stuff, while I'm standing there listening to whatever comes to my ears. Now, I'm a girl that believes in ghosts and hauntings. What comes to my ears almost sounds like a monk crying, or that eerie cry a person makes when they're in pain, coming from the upper torture. I was shitting bricks, and we haven't even entered yet. The deserted house of a rich family. They owned most of the liquor stores in my hometown, had a wing that was connected to a patio that was completely enclosed by chain link fencing, like a cage with a covered top aisle. The room attached to the caged area and was bare of furniture except a chair, which was built right into the wall structure. The chair had straps for the person's wrists and ankles. All of the electrical fixtures in the house and in this room were covered with plaster or wire mesh. I'm pretty sure they housed a family member in that moment. The property was secluded, and the house was magnificent, located in a wealthy area of Southern California. The property alone would be worth millions today. It looked like the owners just walked away from the house one day and never looked back. Never the house, and never learned the whole story. We would walk up to the house just to scare ourselves when we were young. It felt evil. I like to think about abandoned buildings and places like that at some point someone was the last person in that building before it became a relic and something to be explored. And it's almost like a time capsule. Pretty fascinating. Anyway, it's my birthday and I'm in Florida, so sorry for the audio today. I don't have my microphone while I'm traveling, but still want to bring you guys some videos. So, enjoy. My old friend would spend weekends at her dad's home, which was an old insane asylum. They had only converted half of it into actual living space, so the other half of the hospital was still in the same condition the place was in when it stopped being used, which was a bit effed up, but whatever. They were kind of an odd family. The old creepy part of the hospital was cordoned off, and we never explored it because it was creepy and cordoned off. But one day while there was a group of us, young, freaked out, and overexcited girls. We decided to check it out. The whole building felt like really effed up, like more than just creepy. It was always cold and had a weird smell that never went away. We found the old electroconvulsive therapy room, which was small and the walls were covered in layers of scratched off wallpaper. Words hadn't been carved into the table, but it had a leather strap on it. And there were so many power outlets. Then we found these bathrooms. One had heaps of caution tape on the door, so we thought we'd check it out, and that was our first. The toilets had no plumbing, which was expected, but then there was this one toilet, which was just filled with what looked like a lot of dried blood and some toilet paper. There were smears of blood on the stall, too. It was a little too creepy, so we left that part of the hospital. We found some old lockers and managed to get one open, and inside was knitted party booties. That was pretty sad, actually. One of the weirdest things about the part they actually lived in was the fact that they used to the old surgery room for their kitchen. The surgery sign was still on the door, and that room smelled even weirder than the rest of the place. All the old counters and everything were still there and being used. I assume that room is where they used to lobby people. The place freaked us out, but we didn't really need quite how effed up that place was. The blood, electroconvulsive therapy room, surgery room, old baby clothes, and the all-around haunted feeling really made for a place you wouldn't want to turn into a home. I don't understand how they left it all there and didn't come clean it out. I went into one of the 4 buildings outside of the old Bartonville asylum in Bartonville, Illinois that was collapsing, and you could walk in freely without breaking or entering. Hell, my excuse for going in was that there weren't any no trespassing or do not enter signs, unlike the other buildings, which had signs unlike the others. Not that it would hold up in court, but at the time my 17-year-old self rationalized it in that way. I walked in. It was broad daylight, a rather warm day in February, like mid-60s up north. If that happens in February, that means break out the shorts. I walked in and went to the shop for a diaper pad and found her dilapidated stairwell that led into just darkness, a basement of some sort. I immediately felt something was watching me that just wasn't a living, breathing human. My now ex-girlfriend was hanging out in the foyer of the trashed building. I took one step down the stairwell and was going to use my cell phone as a crude light, and I immediately felt the temperature drop 20 degrees, and I was shivering and felt a sense of dread come over me. I promptly got my ass back to work outside. I understand if I went all the way down, well, hell, it's underground, it's total darkness, no shit. It's going to be color. But for some reason, such a dramatic drop from a Jurassic Park or from just one step, that is not normal. As a child, the house I grew up in wasn't really haunted. It just had the occasional footsteps when no one was there. I also remember seeing shadow figures a couple of times, but one day I remember lying in the bed trying to go to sleep. Then I rolled over and I saw the scariest thing anyone could see on the wall. I saw a burning face in the hall that turned into fire, and then the fire went out. After it went out, there were like bum marks of where it was. Then the marks disappeared entirely. Needless to say, I didn't sleep that night. DR. I saw a burning face in the wall. My family and I went on a tour of a haunted house in Victoria, British Columbia once. It was a guided tour with one of these headsets with the recordings. We're in the attic looking at some things when suddenly my sister's headset starts to play white noise. She gets freaked out and runs from the room. A few seconds later it stops. Then starts up again. She goes back in. We all leave the room. My sister's headset is no longer playing white noise. We go to another room. Then start up again. We all leave the room. We go to another room. My mom's headset begins to do the same thing. Then as we leave that room, we hear footsteps behind us. They sounded like hard-heeled shoes, but all of the working shoes. But all of us were wearing runners. We go to the next room and hear these footsteps walking about until they stop near my dad. We're all freaked out, but was and wanted to see what's going to happen. Suddenly there's a white noise from my dad's headset. We decide we'd seen enough and headed out. This is not my story, but one I know of my friend. There's an old abandoned farmhouse behind a grocery store in our town that people break into and vandalize and such. And it's a known murder site. He, along with some other friends, went into the house, and as he was wandering around, he found a pile of scattered books, one of which was open to a new chapter, a page named Bridge of Fear. He left the book and kept exploring the house to find the same book on the same level, open to the same page. He was way out of it, and being the idiot that he is, he took the book with him on the way out and took it to his house. He said he read some of it before creepy things started to happen to him, like finding the book on his bed open to the same chapter, or hearing children laughing while in the middle of the woods. But when these things begin to happen, he took the book back to the house and never went back.